Okay, right back to it, everyone. This is my second review today, and it's a series that I am much happier to talk about than the previous film that I reviewed, Ballerina. This is The Brother's Son, a new series on Netflix created by Brad Fulchuk and Byron Wu. Starring Michelle Yeoh, the plot revolves around a Taipei gangster named Charles, who flies to LA following an assassination attempt on his gangster father in an effort to protect his mother and his brother and reconnect with them. And it's important to note that his brother Bruce has up until now been completely oblivious and in the dark as far as his family's criminal involvement. This is a somewhat familiar formula. We've seen it in The Godfather, The Sopranos, and everything else in between. But the chemistry and charm that the central family generates makes this feel very fresh and interesting. The writers wisely tell us this story almost entirely from the family's point of view, so it really feels like it's their relationships driving the story rather than mechanical crime film cliches. We learn a lot about the Sun family's history and significance within organized crime just through their conversations rather than a bunch of flashbacks, with one notable exception. This is real world building, or, maybe to be more humble about it, I should say, this is the kind of world building that I gravitate towards and appreciate. It's subtle, but it's solid, and you don't need a million spin-offs to do it. Nor is it just Dollarama John Wick world building either. This really feels like its own thing. Even father-son, who has a very fraught relationship with his family for reasons that I'll let you discover on your own, he's neither written nor played like a generic crime boss father. He's absolutely evil, but he's not evil in a typical movie villain kind of way. It's just that he's a very genuine sociopath. He's actually an antisocial personality to the bone, and he just doesn't see any particular problem with being a gangster. He thinks it's the most respectable, natural thing in the world. Like, his approach to this is sort of like, yeah, I'm a gangster, and so what? What's the big deal here? I mean, sheesh. It reminds me a little bit of that part in the David Mamet movie Heist, where Danny DeVito's character says, "Nothing made me a criminal, I am a criminal." Father-son actually seems like he's genuinely oblivious to a lot of the harm that he's doing to his family, which to me is honestly more chilling, and it gives you a lot more room to play than a generic thug. Spending this kind of time and care developing their characters also means that the action scenes when they arrive carry a lot more weight because you actually care about these people. And even in the action scenes, the writing stays very true to the characters. This isn't one of those action comedies where as soon as bullets start flying, characters who were previously comic relief suddenly turn into Arnold Schwarzenegger. The characters who would be deadly and effective in a fight are, and the characters who you would expect to be goofy and clumsy are actually goofy and clumsy. It really goes a long way in terms of making this feel like a story about people and not a story about action. Like Lucifer, The Brother's Son is essentially a family dramedy masquerading as a thriller. For most of its runtime, Brother's Son plays this particular card quite well. It's got a great pace to it, and it's actually a surprisingly easy binge considering that more than one episode breaks the 60-minute mark. Even though I mainly compliment the writing here, it is also where my nitpicks lie. First of all, there's several would-be twists that I think anybody with half a brain could easily call. Two of them involve the hints of romantic plots that are there for both brothers, but when you look back on how the series ends, it really does sort of feel like those plot threads are there just to provide a convenient reason for all the warring parties in this story to be in the same room at the same time for the action climax near the end. It also has a little bit of that cinematic universe syndrome that a lot of film and television seems to have nowadays, where a whole bunch of hints and setups for potential sequels and spin-offs are just kind of sputtered out in the last 5 minutes. In the closing moments of the finale episode, without spoiling anything, I'll just say that we get one scene that kind of reverses everything else that we've seen happen in that episode to the point where it kind of stands out like a sore thumb. Like, it really felt like I got poked in the eye considering everything I had just watched. Then we get a false ending gag that is admittedly kind of funny, topped off with a mid-credits scene to boot. I mean, Jesus Christ. Thanks for that, Marvel. Now everybody's got to have 5 endings to their movie. Even though I didn't bring it up, I had issues with the ending of Ballerina, my previous review, for the same reasons. Like, people, please, for the love of God, pick an ending and stick with it, would you? To be perfectly fair, it might be something that's imposed by producers or the studios, because my thinking is sort of that anyone who's talented enough, creative enough, and conscientious enough to ascend to become a professional writer at this level probably knows better. But it's how things are sold and marketed now, so for the moment we're just kind of stuck with it. But despite some elements that could be refined on a writing level, this was still a very fun and easy binge. It's got some big laughs, very likable, engaging characters. Characters always behave based on how they've been written and shaped, not just based on what's convenient for the screenplay. And there's enough bone-crunching, blood-spurting action along the way to satisfy an action fan. Michelle Yeoh, as ever, is wonderful. She can do more with a look than most people can do with their entire body. Brother's Son comes highly recommended, guys, so please be sure to check it out. Thanks as always for watching. More content on the way soon, and I will catch you later. Peace.